who's a billionaire, but he got $500 million to create a car company to make electric vehicles. And why in the world are we subsidizing that, since the average selling price of the vehicles he's trying to make are $100,000 a year? But that was part of the stimulus program. That was part of what I call the crony capitalism that's rampant everywhere. Finally, people have said, well, you're too critical of everybody. You know, you have some negative things to say in your book about Franklin Roosevelt, and Nixon is the real, bogeyman in my book. And I go after, obviously, Greenspan and Bernanke and Paulson and a lot of others. But I do want to mention in closing on this that there are a number of heroes. In fact, in the opening chapter, I list 18 villains, not bad people, but policy villains over the last 60 or 70 years, from FDR to Barack Obama. And then I also have a list of 18 policy heroes, people that stood for fiscal rectitude when it was important, like Eisenhower did and balanced the budget, who stood for sound money when it was important, like William McChesney Martin did, who was chairman of the Fed in the 50s and 60s, or Paul Volcker, who's another hero, did. But if you look at my heroes, Glass, Coolidge, Ike, Eisenhower, William McChesney Martin, Douglas Dillon, who was Kennedy's Secretary of the Treasury, Simon, who was a real budget cutter for Ford. The problem is all of them are dead. So they're not going to help us out of this dilemma. There are a few of these heroes who are still alive, like Volcker, Paul O'Neill, Sheila Bair, one of them I mentioned. But when the push came to shove during the crisis of the last periods that we've been through, they were totally pushed aside and ignored. Remember, Obama ran in 2008. Volcker was the head of his economic task force. For the next 4 years, Volcker was totally ignored. Sheila Bair was head of the FDIC. She's the only one that really knew a lot and had sound judgment and experience with the banking system. When the bailouts came, she was totally shut aside, and the Goldmanites in the Treasury ran everything. Anyway, those are 10 reasons why you should be afraid, very afraid. That pretty well completes chapter 1, and there's like 90 more reasons in this book to be concerned. But in any event, I hope that gives you a little flavor for what the book's about. It's not obviously an optimistic scenario, but somebody ought to tell you the truth. I'm not running for anything, and so I'm trying to do that. Thank you all very much.